Altos is brought to you with the kind compliments of Rituals Coffee House.
Good evening and welcome to Altos, a weekly news and current affairs program produced by the Catholic News and broadcast here on Trinity TV and TTT. I'm your host, Neil Parsonlal. Here's a look at this week's top stories. 8 years after a demolition order was issued, the St. Dominic's RC School in Pinal is finally demolished. There is hope that a new school will soon be constructed. We take you inside the Corpus Christi College, which has been a beacon of education for the past 65 years. The Carmelite sisters on Mount St. Benedict give us a look at the process of making the Holy Communion, which we consume as Eucharist in church. And later we speak with the General Manager of the Catholic Commission for Social Justice, Father Stephen Alexander, on a range of national issues pertinent to social justice. And now for our top story. As the nation joined with the Roman Catholic community to celebrate the Feast of Corpus Christi holiday on Thursday, we shine a spotlight on the Corpus Christi College of Occupational Education and Training, which will be commemorating a significant milestone in September, 65 years of providing faith-based education and fostering vocations within the Catholic community. The college's rich history is rooted in gospel values, community service, and the nurturing of future leaders by the Corpus Christi Carmelite sisters. Videographer Andre Burton and correspondent Clysha Best recently visited the school and chatted with Sister Sarah Waterman Ocam, the college's current principal, who goes above and beyond for her students.
1959, following a prompt by Father Cyril Ward, primarily to serve the educational needs of Catholic girls in the Diego Martin area. The Corpus Christi College began with just 36 students under the leadership of Sister Helena Profero. Currently, there are approximately 400 students. Principal Sister Sarah Waterman told Altos that the college's growth and success are deeply connected to its spiritual mission and the institution's distinctive educational approach, known as the triangular model.
Traditional academics, but they included a skills program. Students going to the regiment as well to learn auto mechanics. You had art, you had sewing, plumbing, or electrical. Those things was incorporated in that program. So out of that now, you had the on-the-job training. And if memory serves me right, I believe that Corpus Christi College, under the direction of Sister Petronilla, was the first institution to have the on-the-job training program in the country.
Sister Sarah, who took up her post in 2023, stands out as a young principal at the helm of an equally young faculty. Her role as principal sees her extending much-needed assistance to underprivileged students.
These we actually make food hampers for students who are in need.
How long have you guys been doing that?
For as long as I think Sister has been, let's say more than 10 years.
Sister Sarah also heads the Mount Carmel Daycare and the Mount Carmel Early Learning and Montessori School, alongside Sister Joanne Brown, and assists Sister Annunciata de Souza at the Christ Child Convalescent Home. There is also a retirement home that currently houses 6 retired Carmelite sisters, all located on the same compound at Church Street, Diego Martin. The Corpus Christi College Daycare, Montessori School, and Convalescence Home are each privately funded and are in need of minor repairs and air conditioning units. Sister Sarah shared some of her plans to raise these much-needed funds.
Around the 4th of December, it's more of an extravaganza. So we're hoping to have the college's art students display their projects, but also how you would have the artisan market, so persons come in and they rent a table and they bringing also into that the music dimension of the school, so have the students performing as well. And sip and paint. Oh, with a difference.
I am Clysha Best for Catholic News, Altos.
Ladies, please have a seat for meditation.
Abandoned almost 8 years ago due to structural issues, the building that once housed St. Dominic's RC School has finally been demolished. Dale Sidenu has more in this report.
Standing at the top of Oliveri Drive in Pinal for over 60 years, the St. Dominic's RC School provided thousands of children with a solid education. However, in December 2017, Movements in the foundation resulted in cracks in the building. This led authorities to deem the structure unsafe, and a demolition order was issued. Since then, students have been accommodated at the parish hall of the St. Dominic's RSC Church and the Penal Community Center. On Saturday, June 7th, 8 years after the demolition order was issued, the structure was finally demolished. General Earth Movers Limited generously donated their services to carry out the demolition, while parishioners, many of whom experienced a deep sense of sadness seeing the place where they spent their formative years reduced to rubble, turned out with their cutlasses and whackers ready to help clear the compound, which had become overgrown with bushes. While sad that this piece of their history is gone, parishioners and parents say that they are praying that this will pave the way for a new school to be constructed for the benefit of the children soon. I am Dale Cedeno, reporting for Catholic News Altos.
For over a century, the Corpus Christi Carmelites have quietly shaped the church in Trinidad and Tobago and the region in education, care for the poor, and Eucharistic devotion. Andre Burton visited their generalate at Mount St. Benedict, where an aging but faithful community continues a most sacred work.
Founded in 1908 and active in Trinidad since 1919, the Corpus Christi Carmelites remain rooted in a deep love for the Eucharist. Today, a small team of sisters and lay volunteers continues the ministry of making altar bread.
We are living out the spirit of Mother Mary Elica, who was the foundress of the congregation. She had a deep love for Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament. Thus, we are called Corpus Christi Carmelites.
Sister Katrina now leads the order, drawing from over 50 years of religious life. When the community saw a decline in vocations, the need for help grew, and former prioress, Sister Petronella Joseph, took action, forming a prayerful team of lay women to help keep the altar bread ministry alive.
Sister Petronella Joseph, she had a group of women, matured women, married and otherwise, who, it was a kind of a prayer group, and when she saw that we needed help, she approached them.
Every week, this dedicated crew gathers to mix, bake, and cut thousands of communion hosts in a process that's as prayerful as it is precise.
First we mix the batter, so it has to be a certain consistency, and then we bake it on this baking machine. After baking, it's placed in the humidifier. Leave it for about 20 minutes, and then place it here and place a weight on it so it gets flat, and then after another maybe about 50 minutes we cut them.
The volunteers are members of a prayer group who see their service as an extension of their spiritual life.
We belong to the group of handmaids of Our Lady of Mount Carmel, so we decided we'd like to come and help do this.
About a dozen parishes across Trinidad still receive hosts from this faithful team. And as the sisters continue to serve the Lord with gladness, they hope their witness inspires others to answer God's call. I'm Andre Burton, reporting for Catholic News, Altos.
And after 75 years of managing the St. Bernadette's Hostel in Guyana, the Corpus Christi Carmelites recently bid a sad farewell to the Diocese of Georgetown. The hostel was originally established as a safe haven for young women, many of whom came from orphanages and remote regions. Our correspondent, Clysha Best, sat down with the returning sisters to hear about their experience in Guyana and the bittersweet farewell to the hostel.
The St. Bernadette's Hostel in Georgetown was officially handed over to the Sisters of Mercy on May 30th, 2025. The Carmelite sisters, who were in charge of the facility, Superioress Sister Antoinette Dickey and Sister Anne Celestine, said the hostel's mission was to provide safe, affordable shelter for young women from various parts of Guyana.
We also looked after girls from the Rupununi, the Amerindians, coming into town to go to be educated. because in those days there were no tertiary and maybe very few secondary schools in the interior, and they came into town, and so they were able to have again another safe place to stay, safe and secure place to stay, an affordable place.
Sister Antoinette shared the reason for their departure and emphasized the deep connection the sisters had with the community.
At one of our general chapters, it was decided by the sisters, the superiors, those who were attending the general chapter. This is our greatest meeting time, and that we would have to close some of our convents and our ministries because we were not getting vocations, and we would not have enough sisters to run them, to manage them. And so I knew Guyana was one. So I knew it was coming, but I love Guyana so much, I didn't want it to come, you know.
The sisters' departure marks the end of an era rooted in compassion and service, leaving behind a lasting legacy in Guyana's social and educational development. I am Clysha Best for Catholic News Altos.
And we certainly thank the sisters for their service. Pope Leo has announced that Carlo Acutis, a teenage computer aficionado dubbed God's influencer, will be canonized on September 7th, making him the Roman Catholic Church's first millennial saint. Last Sunday, locally, teens from parishes and schools of the Southern Vicariate gathered at La Divina Pastoral Church in Siparia to celebrate Pentecost and open the exhibition of Eucharistic miracles as documented by Blessed Carlo Acutis. The initiative was jointly coordinated by the Southern Catechetical Office and the Southern Vicar's Office. The exhibition will remain open to the public until Sunday, June 22nd. You can certainly read more about this in the Catholic News. The 2025 Worldwide Marriage Encounter North American Secretariat Convention began today with an opening ceremony at the National Academy for the Performing Arts. The convention will focus on the theme, Be the Light of Christ, drawing inspiration from Jesus' call in Matthew 5:14 for believers to be the light of the world. Monsignor Philippe Bourdain, a French theologian and president of the St. John Paul II Pontifical Theological Institute for Marriage and Family Sciences, is the featured speaker. Archbishop Charles Jason Gordon will be the main celebrant of the closing Mass on Sunday. More than 1,000 delegates from around the world are expected to attend, along with representatives from Guyana, Suriname, St. Vincent, Barbados, Dominica, and Jamaica. It's now time for us to take a short break, and when we return, we speak social justice with Father Stephen Alexander, General Manager of the Catholic Commission for Social Justice. Before we go, though, take a look at this week's trivia question.
When I got the call that someone sponsored me to attend the Catholic News Business Conference at the Cascadia Hotel on June 28th, I was so thankful. I felt inspired by the theme, Fueled by Faith and Hope, Fired Up for Success. I feel this experience will change my life. From mass to massages, it will have so many great activities on the day. The presentations on purpose, faith, conflict, and professionalism will help make me better. I plan to learn from the expert presenters and network with my fellow attendees. I feel blessed by the sponsored opportunity to attend the Catholic News Business Conference on June 28th at the Cascadia Hotel. Fueled by Faith and Hope, fired up for success.
Thanks very much for staying with us. We have on set with us today Father Stephen Alexander, the General Manager of the Catholic Commission for Social Justice, and we speak to him principally about social justice issues. Father, thanks very much for joining us today on the Labor Day holiday.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it's good to have you. You're the man to talk about on social justice issues, the best kept secrets of the church.
Well, secret it is. But we hope to change that.
Yes. Father, today is Labor Day. We celebrate Labor Day in Trinidad and Tobago today. 88 years since the 1937 riots. the church has always spoken on behalf of the worker, the rights of the worker. What is the church's message to the national population on Labor Day today?
The church's message is consistent and it continues to speak for workers' rights. You may remember, Neil, that I wrote in an article not too long ago, I think it was the beginning of May, when, yes, that was just before Pope Leo's election.
Oh, yes.
And I wrote about Rerum Novarum, a document which was issued all the way back in 1891 by Pope Leo XIII.
Right.
And that was the first social encyclical where the church really came out. And the whole idea of that document was to identify the reality that workers are being infringed, their rights, they're not being treated well. And as such, what we've seen the church do since then is to prioritize the rights of workers, to ensure that workers are treated well, to ensure that oppression is diminished, to ensure that we can continue to celebrate and to promote the dignity of each human being, each person, which is at the heart of all social justice. And so a concise statement in this time, particularly in the space where we find ourselves in Trinidad and Tobago, is that we really need to pay attention to our workers. We have many people right now who are experiencing difficulties, change of government, etc. And I would suggest to all of Trinidad and Tobago, particularly those who have the benefit of having employees, that they should pay attention to those who they serve. Because what the church says in its proclamation about workers is that actually it's not just the workers who serve, because that's it's an idea that is misguided. It's a reality that we who have been gifted serve those whom enter into our own paths.
But is it simply a question of putting people before profits, or can the two, occur in tandem?
I think fundamentally it's about putting people before profits. You see, the idea of social justice and of ethics on a whole is that we don't instrumentalize, commodify, or objectify human beings. And profit before people is just that. It's about understanding the human being as an instrument, an object, a means to an end. It's not about understanding this as a child of God, as someone invested with life, someone who is a gift to all of society and whose gift needs to bless all others. And so, yes, profit is necessary. Profit is one of the things that many people enter into business for. But if profit is the be-all, the end-all, and if it means infringing the rights of others, then, Neil, the church would say, redirect, recalibrate, and have a look at this again.
The church has always, and the Latin American church in particular, has always had this emphasis on the preferential option for the poor.
Yes.
As we see increasing images of poverty, we hear the labor unions talking about a living wage as opposed to a minimum wage. How would you respond to the cries of workers for that living wage? How should the church respond to that?
You take me back to my time in the Dominican Republic, where I spent about 4 years studying in my preparation for the priesthood, and somewhere that I still visit. And living in Latin America really helps one to understand poverty from a different perspective. I often tell people, until they've gone to Brazil or to certain other countries, that they're not seeing poverty in its truth. And so that has shaped me. It's formed me the way that I see and think of poverty. And the living wage is something that we definitely need to look at, because to understand poverty, we have to understand scarcity. We have to understand economic principles, and we have to also understand within that manipulation of terms and technologies, we have to understand as well that whilst the worker needs to, economically there must be balance. And so I can't want more than I can have. A lot of people won't agree with me, but we have to be balanced. We have to be wise in what we do. And so the living wage, I think, is a great measure. The living wage helps us to look at the cost of living, to look at what it takes. In economic principle and theory, we have the basket understanding of it, where what would it take to fill a grocery basket for that person to come? Pope Francis of happy memory. In Latin America, when we go, we hear of something called the economy of Francis, because Pope Francis spoke about an economy which was based on love and solidarity and caring for people and ensuring people are able to live, because justice from a Catholic theological perspective is nothing more than right relationship or right living. It's about giving each person his or her due. And so that living wage fits right in there. If I'm able to live comfortably on this, comfortably being relative of course, then this would be good for me. At the same time, it must be balanced with what that employer can justly afford. And if we understand that, then let's say wage negotiations going on nationally right now might take that into consideration. Because at times there is oppression from those who hire, the employers, but also at times there might be oppression from the workers themselves and those who seek something that might actually be not in accordance with what an employer can rightly.
And one of the categories of workers we know who will face that kind of exploitation is the migrants in any community. We have had the news recently of the closure of the United Nations Human Rights Commission office here in Port of Spain in Trinidad. They deal specifically with migrants and migrants issues. What is the role of the church now in taking up the slack? How can the church respond to the closing of that door on migrants?
Neil, I don't like the phraseology used there, the closing of the door on migrants.
That's all right.
Right? And so I start from there. And I take you back to the church now needing to step up. Because if we remember, in 2018, the Archdiocese Ministry for Migrants and Refugees officially began. Now, this was 2 years after an initial call had been made by His Grace to the migrant crisis. And the church has always been at the forefront. The UNHCR and all the other UN agencies literally came in to work with the church and to help because of the yeoman's service and the work we'd been doing in our own capacity, in our parish structures. We at the CCSJ, under which the AMMR fell, we created a structure of parish ministry for migrants and refugees. We've also been working on the Catholic social justice ministries within parishes. And so it helps to give a global view. What we've been asked to do now that the UNHCR offices have closed and moved back to Panama, where they were before they came to Trinidad, is to really to continue the work that we've been doing, to go out there again and to say to believers, to say to brothers and sisters in the faith, that we have a responsibility. We have a responsibility to look after our brother and our sister. We have a responsibility that we cannot overlook. Solidarity might be the principle that, if you wanted me to identify a principle within Catholic social justice teaching that we could use there, in solidarity with others, we have to reach out and to help. And so recently the IOM would have made a request for certain assistance, because like the UNHCR, we've recognized that many of the other UN agencies and those from civil society who would have had donors who were given for these things now don't have the financial resources that they once had. Who did they turn to? The church. Because the church has always been doing it, and the church will always continue to do it, because our reason for doing it is really different. It's not philanthropy, it's not to look good or to feel good. It's about Jesus Christ. It's about that call in Deuteronomy, which said to us to care for these aliens, these strangers, to care for them, because when you were in a strange land, I cared for you.
A significant section of that migrant population, of course, is of Venezuelan brothers and sisters. Recently, we've heard some rumblings between Trinidad and Tobago and Venezuela with respect to somebody being caught and the president making some statements. Any thoughts on that?
I would like to stay out of the politics of that. What do I mean by that? Two sovereign nations here are dealing with political realities. They have international boundaries, delimitation areas, etc. And so I leave that to them. What I can say is that politics, according to Pope Benedict XVI of happy memory, in his encyclical Deus Caritas Est, is its primary responsibilities for the just ordering of the state and society. That's including our state and society and the Venezuelan state and society. And so the responsibility of these leaders is really to seek that and to seek the common good of all people. What I will urge is that they remember the great diplomatic relationships that we've had, that they remember the history of our nations, which include contraband coming from Venezuela and equally from Trinidad. And there are places in Guyana where you can see a Trinidad flag and hear soca music and see people dancing and looking like us, and similarly right here where we have that Venezuelan essence. And so I would say that from a social justice perspective, any fallout from this tension would not be good for our nation. Worse yet, it would be really, really difficult for our people and for those Venezuelan persons who have been seeking recourse to a better and a more improved life here in Trinidad and Tobago.
And Father, on that note, we'd like to thank you, and really thank you for the emphasis on what that relationship between everyone, worker, employer, church, and state. We thank you very much, and we're sure we'll see you again on Altos at some other time.
Thank you, Neil. God bless you. Happy Labor Day, everyone.
Thanks very much for staying with us. We'll be right back.
In this Sunday's issue of the Catholic News, architect Rudilyn Defoe Roberts chats with senior writer Laura Pickford Gordon about her life's work helping to preserve the legacy of old buildings. After all the talk on violence in schools, psychologist Dr. Margaret Naked-Chatur wants to know what's next. And with the nation marking another Labor Day, General Manager of the Catholic Commission for Social Justice, Father Stefan Alexander, examines the Christian understanding of work. Here are the clergy anniversaries for the coming week and the coming event. I am Raymond Sims, editor of the Catholic News.
Thanks very much for staying with us. The Shrine Committee of Our Lady of Montserrat RC Church in Tortuga, one of the designated sacred sites for Jubilee 2025, recently hosted its 15th annual Afternoon Tea with Our Lady. Dale Sideno tells us more in this report.
Commissioned by Father Steve Duncan on January 26, 2010, the Shrine Committee has hosted the annual Afternoon Tea with Our Lady since May 2011. This year's theme, Our Lady of Montserrat, Our Sweetness and Our Hope, marks the 15th anniversary of the fundraiser, an event that committee head Diane Bertrand describes as vital to the upkeep of the 146-year-old structure.
Many people come every year from all across the Archdiocese to support us because many people are invested in the idea of supporting us by raising funds to restore the building or the Shrine of Our Lady and then to continue the maintenance of it.
The afternoon began with Marian devotions, followed by Holy Mass at 1 p.m., celebrated by Father Steve Ransom and the parish priest, Father Shijo Abraham. This was then followed by a procession with Our Lady from the church to the presbytery grounds.
We look forward to people coming from wherever they are and just experiencing our Blessed Mother. As you arrive in Tortuga, you experience the peace of the village. And of course, when you get into the church, Our Lady immediately wraps you in her mantle. And you leave feeling refreshed and very happy and full of joy.
I am Dale Sideno reporting for Catholic News, Altos.
That's a lovely way to wrap our show for this week. Remember, pray for Trinidad and Tobago, learn your Bible, read your Bible, learn your faith. And as we go on this Corpus Christi and Labor Day long weekend, we leave you with some images from the Eucharistic Congress held in May, when hundreds turned out to pray, praise, and worship in the presence of the Holy Eucharist in the large monstrance. Have a blessed and safe weekend, everyone.
Altos was brought to you with the kind compliments of Rituals Coffee House.